Hi there, it's Bruce Wallace from Dundee and Victoria Chess Club in Bonnie, Scotland, and this game is from the first round of our club championship, and it's Paul Simpson as white. Paul's got a grading of 1002 and he's fairly new to chess, and he's playing here Robert Burnet, and Robert's a fairly strong player, used to be graded over 1700 and now is 1610 I believe, so Paul's really up against it. So let's get on with the game. Paul kicks off with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, castle, knight f6. And we've got a Gucco piano here, or quiet game, although my experience of the Gucco is that it can be a wild game. Paul plays knight c3. Alternatively here, d4 as a move is interesting. a6 for black, giving his bishop an escape square, and then a4 for white. Alternatively, d4 immediately would have been better. However, a4, and it's still in fact absolutely dead level. Castles, d3, d6, and then Paul plays h3, which is a move that fairly new players will play to stop the bishop coming in to pin the knight on f3. Schroeder recommended here bishop g5 immediately, and then knight b4 were the moves recommended. However, after d6, h3, and knight a5, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back, bishop e6, bishop g5, which was the strongest move as recommended by Schroeder, h6, and here Paul loses patience. I mean, he was doing well up to now. He had to be patient and develop his position. He played bishop takes h6, and this is an unsound sacrifice for no real compensation. A better move there would have been restrict the bishop to h4, or even bishop takes bishop on e6 potentially, and then moving his bishop back to a3, perhaps with views to the endgame. However, he took the pawn, g takes, and then he swapped off the bishop on e6, f takes e6, and then knight d2. Now here, black's best move is king h7, and his king is completely safe. And then if white plays knight e2, knight c6, the knight can come back to d7 and get to g6, supporting the king. The rooks can get to the open file, the queen can come into the attack, and there's a huge plus of nearly 3 here, 3 pawns for black. But after queen d2, black made a minor blunder. He played knight to h7, allowing the queen to come in here, so there might be drawing chances. Queen takes pawn, although black is still well ahead. Now white played knight e2. Now this allows the queen to hit the knight on the a5 square, and black here should have just played knight c6, but it's black's turn to blunder. He actually plays knight g5. Schroeder comes up with an interesting alternative, and that is rook takes knight, and if queen takes a5, it's queen g5 coming in for an attack, and now black's advantage is massive, and will win the game. However, he played knight g5, knight takes, queen takes, and then white picks up the knight on a5. So white is a pawn ahead now. b6. Now I was watching this game, and I thought in this position the best move for white here had to be queen e1. This bishop on c5 here is vulnerable to attacks from this pawn on b4, on b2 coming to b4, and if the queen goes to e1, it can support that advance, but it's still playing a role in defending the king position. So I thought that queen e1 was the best move there. However, after b6, white played queen c3. Now this still supports the b4 push, so it's not a bad move, but it's not effective as queen e1, because this pawn impedes the queen's ability to get over to the king side to defend if black gets an attack going. So queen e1 was definitely the better move. However, after queen c3, it was rook f7, and then white does play b4, which is a good move. Black now plays rook g7, threatening to mate on g2. G3, best move, and this costs black another pawn, because the bishop must move here. Bishop there, knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes d4, and now rook f8. And black has all the play here on these open files, and the potential for the pawn, the h-pawn, to come into the attack. And at the moment, really, white has only one piece defending. The queen is half defending on this diagonal, but needs to get into defend. The a1 rook is offside, so black has all the play here. Now, Schroeder here recommends the move queen c4, attacking the e6 pawn, and then you have rook coming in to defend, and then white centralizes his rooks on e1, and white's got a reasonable advantage here, but still has to be careful. However, Paul didn't play that. After rook f8, he played the move rook a to d1, and this in fact still maintains the advantage, but wasn't the best move. Myself and another player were watching this game, and we're looking for different options. This allows black to play the move rook f3, and white still maintains the advantage. But there, in fact, is really only one good move for white here. Can you see it? It's not an obvious move, because in this position black is threatening to sacrifice on g3, which actually leads to mate. So white needs to be careful. The best move actually is king h1, and then the sacrifice doesn't work. Work it out yourself. Unfortunately, white didn't find that resource, and he played the move king g2, and this is now mate in 3. Rook takes g3. Now Paul resigned at this point. F takes, queen takes g3, king h1, queen takes h3 mate. So Paul should have taken longer to look at his position, and instead of playing king g2, if he had found king h1, he could have survived for longer. After this, though, the attack continues with h5, e5 being one suggestion, h4, and then g4, which is quite interesting. And still a lot of play left in the position. Instead of g4, after h4, one suggestion of Schroeder is queen h3, and there's quite a hairy continuation here. Pawn takes, queen takes rook, g2 check, king g1, g takes rook, queen check, king takes, queen takes e5, and in this position black has regained a pawn, and white still remains ahead, but still loads of play in the position. So Paul had to play a little more carefully there. He had the chance of taking a big scalp, but he just missed the winning continuation. or surviving continuation, and perhaps it was just about inexperience and maybe becoming a bit more relaxed because he was 2 pawns up. But I'm sure Paul will improve. He's absolutely mad about the game, and we look forward to hosting a game where he wins. See you soon.